This section is really about building flow solutions and comfort. Let me introduce myself, Meier Rauterkus. I'm president for Building Flow Solutions. Started at Uponor in August 21, and Torsten Meier joined us January 23. He's the Chief Innovation Officer, so everything related to innovation, new products, etc. That's the man. And let's start and really talk about what happened over the last 18, 24 months with the integration of Uponor into GF. I must say it has been really a successful integration. And remember what we did? We had an infrastructure business, gave it over to the I&I colleagues, and they had a huge portfolio of what they call BUBT, Business Unit Building Technology. And we brought over 1,300 people and 5 factories into the portfolio, because logically we want to always have building, industry and infrastructure. And then we had a super puzzle play with more than 40,000 pieces, means SKUs. And first had to say, okay, we need to really structure everything into what makes sense to the customer, etc. And I'm really a big fan of simplification and profitability. So the one thing we did was a complete new redesigned portfolio with 60% less SKUs. 60% SKUs. So we took out almost 25,000 products, which I think it's very hard because there are a lot of debates on what you take out, etc. But for the profitability of the company, that's really good. Then we cleaned up also the footprint. We closed the factory. We have 2 factories in Turkey. We closed 1 in Turkey, 1 in Italy, and have also upgraded every single site. So there's not one factory we haven't touched. Either we have put in new machines, modernized, restructured, brought stuff together, etc. So and I must say the operational team has done a super performance. Our service quality has gone up, and this despite top line under stress over 2-3 years, and I think that's really good. And systematic focus on customer and channels. So why did GF really bought Uponor? Because of the sales synergies, not so much of the cost synergies. Clearly, they also play a big role, but of course they are easier to detect and to manage. But the whole thing is really sales synergies. And I must say we have basically two programs here. One is on the wholesaler side, working together, and for the customer it has a big improvement, because now they can talk to one GF. And they say, okay, great. We have now somebody taking care of industry, infrastructure, and the building side. So I can talk to one person, one point of contact. And I've visited with Andreas or with Thomas Harry, my colleague from I&I. And the customers love this story, I can tell you. They always want to, at the end, talk to specialists, but they also see the logic of having everything in one hand. And give you an example. The I&I, they have very much worked on projects, but not so much with wholesalers. At the same time also, they very often wrestle with service issues, availability, etc. Why not using our wholesale channel to improve the service level? On the other side, BFS was never so super strong on projects. That's a specialty of I&I. And many of these projects are not just industry or just infrastructure or just building. Many of them cover all the 3 segments. I mean, there's no data center without a building or an infrastructure. So why not using this whole channel and looking at this from A to Z and capture all these synergies? And that's the most exciting part of this whole journey. It's not easy because you need to work on different systems, etc. But I must say, when you really talk to the customers, they love this, and that's really something which comes more and more into fruition. The other point, of course, is synergies with products. So we take these products of old BU, BT into ex-Uponor markets and vice versa. And that has, of course, a huge effect. I mean, GRG product made in Sissach, we only sold in 3 markets, southern Germany, a bit Norway, Switzerland. Now we have the full Uponor sales force who can sell that. Or take the wastewater business from Turkey. Was only sold in a few markets. Now we launched this in Europe and got last Friday the first big order of the biggest customer in Europe, which is very good. So from, let's say, doing the integration work, now shifting gears to accelerate growth, it is really about what this industry makes exciting is product synergies. And this is basically the symbol of how we came together. We were never in this riser business, which is in projects super important. We didn't have this product portfolio, but we had aquapacks. But the customers, they had to combine these, and they were handmade combinations in the past with 5 different devices, and now we brought this together. There's a transition fit inside, super easy. This is the example Andreas mentioned where we got orders even before we launched the product. The whole portfolio we launched at ISH in Frankfurt this year was a big success. We also won the German Design Award for the booth, etc. And I apologize, we can only show you today 3 innovation. I asked Andreas Müller to give me the whole space here in Schaffhausen to show everything, and he denied, so what can I do? So apologize, you only get 3 products. But the products we show you, they are all award-winning, design prizes, technology prizes, whatever. And I think they are really, and the pride is not just the prize. I mean, it's of course an external factor. You celebrate and enjoy, but also it's at the end of the day the numbers. So we see really a good order book, sales growth of the products, and Torsten will later talk about this. And so the integration journey is working well. The market doesn't really help us a lot, but the industry trends continue to really, really boost our business. Energy efficiency plays plays a big role, and the energy performance of buildings directive helps us. Not many companies can really cope with this. They don't simply have the resources. And for us, this makes a big difference. Sustainable solutions, a big topic. We will not withdraw from the sustainability agenda, but not so much only because of sustainability per se, but also our customers want energy efficient buildings and operate at lowest possible costs. And this is, it's at the end of the day, the value of the building. This makes a lot of sense. AI, digitalization will play a huge role in our own processes, in products. The product which will be presented by Torsten has been ordered in a market where we didn't even launch it because the customer found it via ChatGPT. Can you believe? I mean, and now I'm getting worried. If the installer now using ChatGPT to find the product, it shows even in a slow-moving industry, there will be a lot of change. And last but not least, on the installer, on the market side, a lot of changes will happen. Here in this room, we have all young men and women, but the installer typically is 50, 55 years old or older, and the next generation will not work 24/7. They want to have a safe job, 9 to 5, maybe 9 to 6, but that's it. So just the capacity of installation will decrease. So the only point for us is prefabrication, making it easy to install, faster installment. This will be absolutely key. So strategy on one page here is really, what are we focusing on? Maximizing the core business is, for me, strategic pricing. Can you imagine? You have thousands of SKU. The right pricing in the sweet spot of the market is one of the biggest profit drivers. Many companies oversee this a bit. It's our big focus. Then we really, really go after the installer. And Andreas mentioned this. during his presentation. And because it's not an official picture, I show it to you anyhow. It's a picture of a US plumber who has Uponor on a tattoo on his back. So if you find any company in the world where the customer puts the tattoo of his loved brand on his shoulder, tell me. So this is what we would try to achieve then in Europe. Not sure. Think about Swiss installer with tattoo of GF. This would be nice. But that's, I mean, in the US we have really this cult status, and of course we need a bit of this also in Europe. And now it's the right time. I mean, the portfolio is there, and we will heavily invest in trainings. I'll come to this in a minute. We expand into retail, Home Depot, US. It's working really well, has huge potential, very clear. And it is not driving any channel conflicts, because it's at the end of the day not the end consumer, it's the plumber who goes there and wants to buy some spares. We also invest in the global project organization. Our project pipeline has increased the last 12 months 35%. So we're going into next year with really the best project pipeline we ever had, which is very good. We focus on installation, energy efficient products, and of course, AI-powered operational excellence. I mean, we have already many projects going on, but let's say what the potential is huge, and I can't even tell you how this will look like. So I'm also, when I think and discuss with Andreas, can we really do a 5-year plan? How will AI influence everything? I mean, it will be really interesting. So it will be a dynamic time, and we are absolutely prepared for that. So we move from push to pull, and this means really we have identified the installer as our darling in Europe, at least, for more training. So we launch a digital training platform. We invest into new training centers or upgrade the training centers we have. We go to events. Again, ISH 27 is on the agenda, but also we have a big flow symposium forum in Nashville next year. 1,000 key players of the market will come to Nashville. US is always big. 3 days, I don't know. It will be a lot of steaks and beer, whatever. But it's so important, and we invest into brand awareness. This is an example in the US. But also in Europe, we invest more into advertising and promotion, and we invest into more loyalty and incentive programs. For example, into tools, because the customer always needs tools to implement the products. Very often this is a restriction factor, because the tools cost money, and we will enhance this a bit. So either lower the prices, give tools for free, whatever, to make sure tools is not the issue. And also we're working on the next generation of tools. And with this, I hand over to the real stuff, which is the product.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. And before I start talking about products, I would like to share a little bit some numbers, at least one slide on numbers. And the reason is why Michael talked about the industry trends. And I would like to give you some concrete numbers where you see that the industry trends really come to life. And one of the big numbers is here, the installed stock of heat pumps, right? You see a CAGR of 13%. And I know a lot of you have heard some rumors. Germany was tremendously going down the market in heat pumps, right? But when you look at recent numbers, that spiked again. And it's really true. I mean, I really believe this CAGR will continue, and we will see a 60 million installed base by 2030 in EU alone. The other topics was when you look at heat pumps and you look at customers when they decide to buy a new home, they already decide in Germany by 76% for a heat pump, which is really a tremendous shift. And why is this so important to us, right? When you want to run a heat pump in the most efficient way, you need an underfloor heating system. And by the way, you get also a cooling for free, right? Because with a heat pump enables you also to use the underfloor heating system as a cooling system. And that's why we always say it's heating and cooling at the same time. That you will see later also those displays here. So let me come to the first challenge. I would like to show you a few products today. First of all, our EcoFlex, which is connecting a heat pump to the house. So we have solutions coming from outside of the house, from local heat sources into the house, throughout the whole house. We basically have all solutions you need to run a heating or cooling system. Then we will also show a new product here on the underfloor heating and some underfloor heating control system. Let me start with the first one. This is a product which we have brought to the market, invented 30 years ago. This is our EcoFlex line. This is basically connecting local heat sources to the houses. And what you can see on this picture is a very, very bulky product. We had been out with the team talking to the installers, trying to see what can we do for them to further increase our business. And what you can see with the big equipment you need here, this is a real hassle, right? Those pipes are really heavy, sturdy, hard to roll out, and they're still way better than the products we usually replace, and those are old steel pipes, right? Old steel pipes are really short, they need to be welded every few meters. That's a real hassle, they need even bigger machineries. But still, there's a big challenge we gave then to our development team and said, hey, look, this pipe is really too big. We need something which is significantly smaller, and by the way, has a better heat loss performance. But how can you do this, right? It seemed to be almost impossible. So the development team came back with this panel. This is a vacuum insulated panel, which is, by the way, also used in aerospace and has a lambda value of 0.004 watt per meter Kelvin. And that probably doesn't tell you a lot, or? But this is 10 times better than the materials which are used today to insulate the pipes. 10 times better. And it was also a real challenge, by the way, to wrap in our pipes with this. But we came up with a production technology to make this possible. And there you can see the result. This is basically a picture of our old product, and that's the new one. And you see now the bulky product you've seen on the previous picture, which we saw on the production side, and this new one is 70% smaller. And when you have maybe a look over there, would you rather then install the big pipe you've seen earlier on the picture, or is that the pipe you would rather install? I mean, I think it's very clear. With this, we can offer to our customers way longer coils, ship them to the production site. They need way less fittings to connect the single pieces because they get now one large pipe, right? And that really improves then the installation time for them overall, which they really love. By the way, we also offer complete kits when you have a heat pump installation, right? We come with all fittings, everything in one package which you need for the installer, so super easy. And that's really the cool thing about it. Michael said earlier, right? It's really nice to win industry awards, right? All those design awards and stuff like this, but I'm incentivized on making more sales, right? Getting us more profit. And this is one of the products where we really have outperformed, let me say, our prediction in sales. And we are currently in backlog, which we are solving with adding more capacity in our production plants. So it's a really good problem to have. Let me jump to the next challenge. When you think about renovation, when you would like to renovate an apartment, this is something which is done in 95% of the cases today, right? When you want to have an underfloor heating and cooling system in there, you roll out, put out our pipes here, and then at the end of the day, you will have to add screed on top of it. That's called a wet installation. The screed has to be 30 to 40 millimeters above the pipe, so it gives you an overall thickness of 70 to 80 millimeters, give or take. That is quite a package. Now think about it, when you have a renovation, think about the transition to windows, to other rooms, to steps, right? This is a real big barrier. Nobody really likes it. Every millimeter counts. And I've done numerous of installations here. That's a real hassle. Nobody likes it. Another big hassle comes with the screed is the drying time itself. So when you put the screed down, depending on the thickness, it takes up to 30 days for the screed to dry. Who wants to wait 30 days, right, to continue with the installation? Nobody wants that. So we have an older system which we have developed in the past, which is a dry system. You basically put down panels on the floor, and I'll show you now how you do this today. You put down the panels on the floor, you put the pipes in it, then you put some primer on it. Then you need to put backpacker panels on top of this to increase the stiffness. You need to take care of the grooves here in between. You need to put another primer on top of it before you, at the end of the day, can put the tiles on top of this. So it's quite of a lengthy process. When we have looked at this material and the panels itself, we came up with a new production technology and a slight different material choice. And with this, we could increase the stiffness of a panel by 4 times, which is really huge. So it was kind of a soft panel before, but now it's super stiff. What does that really mean in the installation? You can actually get rid of step number 2 in the installation, of step number 3 and step number 4. So overall, by doing this, you reduce your installation time by 40%, which is a significant decrease. But on the other side, those backbarrier panels are quite thick. So you also take them out in the step and you come with an overall size of 20 millimeters only. And now if you refer to what I said before, 70 to 80 millimeter now getting down to 20 millimeter, that's a tremendous difference. And the connection to doors and windows, what I talked about. So basically take all the barriers out that you will not install an underfloor heating and cooling system anymore, right? And to summarize this, now you have a direct flooring capability. You can directly put your tiles or whatever flooring on the panels, right? You have a total height of 20 millimeters and you have a 40% faster installation. And by the way, you can do this with 1 person only, where you needed several people before. And we have some displays over here. We can show them afterwards to conclude. Another challenge is, which I really do like, is the triangle here. So everybody wants to have new architecture. New architecture comes with really big windows, right? Big windows who let a lot of sun in, right? And who doesn't know the topic? When you go to your office on Monday morning, still feels quite cold, right? Because the underfloor heating is really firing up over the weekend, increasing the temperature slowly. And then by 11 o'clock, the sun comes out and all of a sudden you have overheating, right? And the people have to physically go to the windows and open the windows to let air in because it's already too hot. Yeah. And this comfort challenge is really hard to crack because it's just 1 degree up or down which makes you uncomfortable. 1 degree. Yeah. So when you look at the disadvantage of an underfloor heating and cooling system is the slow response time. So how can we really react on this? And we came up with a new algorithm on that one. When you look at heat pumps today, they are not smart systems. Right? A heat pump today has just 1 outside temperature sensor. That's it. That's all how they steer the heat pump. But we have a sensor in every single room with the thermostats itself. I can tell you which room is on the side, which has a big window where the sun is coming in, versus on the other side of the house where never sun comes in. I can tell you this. And I collect all those data on the cloud. Now I combine on the cloud all kind of different weather data. And with a new algorithm, I can predict the room temperature over time, over the day. Isn't that fantastic? And what does it really allow me to do? I can, with this prediction, and pre-adjust the temperature constantly in the room to have a perfect balance then and have a perfect comfort into the room. On the other side, since we own our own cloud, what we have developed is a cloud connection to all major heat pump manufacturers. And with this overall, we can have a saving. We manipulate now the heat pump settings also. And with this, we can have at least a 10% efficiency of the whole system and have an energy saving, which you really feel in the pocket then. 10% of your energy bill will go down. All right. Thank you. Let me say before I conclude, before we go to question and answers, come a little bit around with me and we have a look really quick at this display. So I talked earlier a little bit about underfloor heating and control systems, a dry installation, which we show here. There's a wet installation on the right side still. But there's also other solutions we have. We have a cooling system here on the upper right side, where you cool from the ceiling. You have here some panels which are mounted on the ceiling, but can also be mounted on the wall. So we have a solution, let me say, for all different cases, right? Whatever you need. A cool thing and what I really want to point out, since we are now with GF together, right? We also inherited this nice product here in the corner. This is a cool fit, the black pipes you see here. We didn't have a good solution for pre-insulated pipe, which we inherited now, brought into one system and can offer the full system throughout the house. So there's nice connections then to all our cooling systems, which we can do with it. You see the EcoFlex, this is actually the old pipe, yeah, still a bigger one. On the left side, you would now have a small pipe, yeah, which you see, this is already a tremendous difference for the installer then to handle, and you have this matrix overall. So the solutions we have should not have any barriers, yeah, to put a heating and cooling system into your home.